Cyber Reapers. Hello, Cyber Reapers. So, tonight, or today, wherever you are, I would like to talk about a book. I'm super excited to talk about this one. I will warn you that it is daytime where I am, though, and there are sounds going on outside. I hope that whatever they're doing doesn't get too loud. But if it does, I'll do my best to edit it out. But just so you know, in case you hear a little bit of rumbliness from machinery or cars outside, that's what that probably is. So, just giving you a little heads up. But hey, that's kind of on brand because we're talking about a science fiction-y and fantasy-y novel today, and I would say it's maybe more a new adult book, even though it's advertised as a young adult book. But the characters are, well, the main character is 19 at the start of the book, so I'm not sure. It could be upper YA. There is on-page sex in it, so just as like a heads up, in case you want to read it. But the primary focus of the story, though, it's very gritty, it's very dark, it's got a deadly competition in it, and so that's the main focus. It's got politics, it's got magic, it's got a lot of good stuff. Bloodthirsty main character who's looking for vengeance, and just a lot of really good stuff. So let me get into it in a little more organized way. Let me introduce our premise, right? Oh, probably the title first, yeah. I got ahead of myself, I'm sorry, The title of the book is called The Blood Trials, and it's by N.E. Davenport. So, it's the first of 2 books. It's a duology. So that's, yeah, there we go. I actually clarified what this book is. Now I can talk about the premise, yeah? So the premise. Our premise. So we are in a land. It's not clarified exactly, like if it's another planet or what, but it's not Earth, and it's got its own territories, it's got its own government systems and such. And this story primarily takes place in a republic, where, unfortunately, it's quite misogynistic and racist. Our main character gets hit with both of those things, because our main character is a black woman, and her name is Ikenna. And Ikenna has been training for years now, quite a while, for over a decade, to become a Praetorian and a Praetorian Guard. So these are like above regular combat soldiers. They're like the deadliest, most equipped, most well-trained elite force of the Republic. And Ikenna's been working hard to get to be a part of that force. And she's been training for years under her grandfather's tutoring. And her grandfather is a really powerful one of these Praetorian guards. And he even was the main force that resulted in the Republic winning a war decades ago against this other I guess empire or kingdom, maybe. The Blood Emperor is the one who is the head of that. So I won't go too deeply into the politics. I'm just mentioning that because that's an important part of the entire bigger conflict of the story. That conflict really is a large part of Ikenna's conflicts. But to start out, just Ikenna wants to be a Praetorian Guard, or Praetorian Guard. But when her grandfather suddenly he suddenly dies, Ikenna starts just kind of spiraling and losing focus and going, you know what, maybe I don't really want to be a Praetorian Guard right now. I don't know. So for 3 months, Ikenna's kind of drifting and not really feeling like herself. And that's when somebody informs her that her grandfather was actually assassinated. Now, given that her grandfather was a pretty progressive force in the upper ranks of society and the government, it makes sense to her in the sense of he was not white, and he was not falling in line with what all the white people of the government wanted. So killing him makes sense as something they would do. But of course, she immediately redirects her grief and her feeling lostness, because now she has a purpose. She wants to find out exactly who killed him, and she wants to, exact revenge on those people. So now with this new purpose, she's going, I've gotta become a Praetorian Guard so that I actually have access to the people who know anything about this, so that I can find answers, and so I'll be powerful enough that I can actually manage to exact revenge. So he kind of goes, alright, I actually am going to become a Praetorian Guard. The last step in doing that, though, now that she's completed her, about decade of training, the last step to doing that is to get through the Praetorian Trials. Hence the name of the book, The Blood Trials. It's a lot. It's very gritty. It's a lot of hard work. It is deadly. So, Ikenna now has to go through these trials, and this kind of initiation rite to become a Praetorian Guard, and after that, she'll be set, So during this time, she does her best to survive, and she also does her best to try to help her friends survive when she can. Because she's going into this with friends, and she also makes new friends and enemies during the trials. And it's super interesting to see how she interacts with everybody, because she's very bold, she's very fierce, she's very direct, and she has to kind of hold back some of her thoughts so that she can strategically not make certain people angry, or just keep certain thoughts to herself, including her secrets. And so it's just a lot of there's a lot of inner dialogue that I find super amusing, because I completely agree with her in a lot of the moments where she's angry at somebody for doing something horrible or saying something horrible, but she holds back from saying something back. And then there are other times where she just completely lets loose and just talks back so much, and I love it. I just love how fierce she is. I'm unsure if I've read a protagonist that is as fierce as her before. I don't know if I have read any. I think there's two that I think are comparable. I would say if you've read Iron Widow by Jian Zhao, I'd say that Zetian from that book, that's kind of the main character energy that I get here, except I almost feel like Ikenna pushes it even more. And so I was enjoying the whole time of seeing just how she would handle certain situation next. Not only that, she's strong, she is capable, but she is also rash, and she learns from her mistakes. Because, yeah, there are consequences to her mistakes. Big consequences. Don't get too attached to anybody, apparently. Yeah. But just, yeah, the entire, like, Praetorian trials, all of those feel like they have consequences around every corner. It's very grueling, and very creative. It incorporates a lot of the world building into it as well, because the trials take place at different places, so you get to know some of the magical elements and the lore of the pantheon of gods that are in this world, and you also get to know, like, the creatures. It's a lot, and I love that through all of that, through weaving all of the world building into place, I'm able to catch on to, like, little details that are casually mentioned, like how later on in the book there's a king who comes out wearing a pelt of a Sabine, and a Sabine is like a cat-like creature that Ikenna faced off against at one point in one of the trials. And so you know, oh, okay, this is like a symbol of, like, how mighty the king is, because you know just how difficult and grueling it was to survive against a Sabine early on in the book when Ikenna faced off against one. And so just seeing, like, tiny details like that woven in, and I'm going like, oh, nice, I feel like I'm part of this world a little more now. Just because I can see a detail like that and go, oh, I know the context of, like, of why that's important, or why that kind of bolsters the king's importance. So, stuff like that I thought was really cool. And speaking of, like, weaving in all the politics and stuff, there's definitely a lot. I mentioned not only is there the actual trials, but there's also the war conflict that is kinda, the tensions are still high from the previous war, and it looks like another one might be starting up again. And so that's when the politics stuff starts coming into play. So while Ikenna's investigating her grandfather's assassination, she's also learning more and more about the current tensions between the different regions and their governments. And that gets really messy, really fast. But I understood it. Like, I got a sense for pretty much, like, all the major regions and what they had to do with each other, and why certain actions and certain behavior and exchanges between, like, two groups of people resulted in what it did. So all of that was really neat as well. Just, there was a lot about this book. I'm still kind of decompressing and what is it? Just kind of reflecting on all of it. It was really engaging, and there was a lot to it. I think, too, it was one of the larger books that I've read in a little while. Because in the ebook format, it was about 450-ish pages or so, which, I mean, isn't huge, but it's longer than kind of what I've been doing, of like 250 to 350 pages or so. So it did feel longer, but not in a bad way. It felt like, ooh, there's a lot here. So I enjoyed going through all the stages of the book, because it kept moving. It really did. There was always something next, some new bit of information to propel the story forward, or some new action, new worry, something to anticipate. And even, like, the end of the book, I mean, it's the first book of 2, it wraps up pretty nicely, but at the same time, like, really amps up for the second book because I'm excited for the next book, you know? It's like I'm ready. And after this video, after I record, I'm gonna go see if the library has it, so hopefully they do, because I want to read the second book. Yeah, especially with how it ends. I really want to see what Akina does next. I really want to know if she's gonna get what she wants. Let's just say that. Yeah. It's a lot. I love it. And I think even though, like, the main focus really is on Ikena, and I feel like I know her really well, I feel that the side characters, there's so many side characters, but I know all of them. Like, I know enough of all of them to be able to understand their interactions and dynamics and everything. And yeah, every person seems to have, like, to leave sort of a little bit of impact on Ikena. Yeah. And it's quite brutal sometimes to see that in her story, because it's the trials are definitely deadly, and so it's, you know, you'll get to know somebody and hope that they make it to the end, and they might or might not. So yeah, it's yeah. Oh, and I'm not sure if I mentioned, but like I said, it's like a deadly competition thing, but it's not a only one winner kind of a competition. Like, it's just anybody who passes all of the trials, they get to become a Praetorian. So there's not like a set amount, but typically not many make it out in comparison to the amount who started. So for example, Ikena's class started with 1,000, about 1,000 people trying to train to become Praetorian guards, but after the trials, it's a lot less. So I'll just say that. But I do really like the way that we kind of learn about the side characters through their actions quite a bit. Like, more than, I mean, their dialogue a little bit, but there's one side character in particular I'm not going to name, because I think that's a bit of a spoiler. But the character growth that they undergo was quite something. It was quite good. Because I was going, there's no way they're going to make me like this character by the end of the book. And to be fair, I don't like this character. However, I do think this character has come a long way from where they started. And so I do think, I don't know, I might like this character by the end of book 2, depending on where this goes. But yeah, that character really underwent some character growth. That was insane. But I also feel like it was realistic given what they went through in the trials. It kind of makes sense that the characters would change in the way that they did. Yeah, I thought that was really neat. And also, before I forget, just the overall, like, representation notes. If you're looking for a book by a black author, this is a book by a black author. Also has a black female main character, and she fights back against racism and sexism directed toward her, but also other people. And she has to deal with that a lot. And so her cohorts are primarily white people, and they're primarily men as well. But there are a few women and a few people of color among those those who are training in the Republic to become Praetorian Guards. But out of the whole cast, which involves, more than the Praetorian Guards, there are a lot more people of color. So, in like the other governments in particular. And they become more important later on in the story as Ikenna goes from kind of her own conflict to like being part of a big, wide, like all over conflict, And in relation to the magic stuff, I almost completely forgot to mention this because this is part of the blurb as well. Ikenna not only has to kind of keep the secret all this time that she's looking to avenge her grandfather's assassination, which publicly, as far as everybody else knows, his death was an accident. But Ikenna also has to keep her own secret, a major secret, that she kind of has a weapon. She has magical abilities that can be weaponized in such a way that would result in her, in the Republic ostracizing her and probably killing her. The reason being is she has magical abilities having to do with her blood. Those same magical abilities are used by the tyrannical Blood Emperor. So, the Blood Emperor I mentioned earlier is like at opposition with the Republic, which the Republic is where Ikenna is and lives and is trying to become a Praetorian Guard there. So, her having the same abilities as the opposing, the enemy, is not a good look. So she hides that, and she's hidden it for all her life. And going into the trials, she has to do her best to not use it whenever possible. Because there are ways of detecting when it's being used, and so she's trying to keep that a secret. And, but she does end up using it on occasion because it's very useful. When it comes to life or death situations, she's kind of going, well, if I don't have a choice, it's either I use my magic abilities and live, or I die. I'm going to choose the living option for as long as I can. So that comes into play as well. There's a lot of different elements in this story, and it weaves together very nicely. I love it. Yeah. I think that's all my notes that I had. I'm trying to think if there's anything else, like, after the fact I want to add, because I'm still kind of buzzing with energy. I thought this was a good book, especially to walk to. I put it on my treadmill and I started walking for a while. So I was exercising while reading the last hour and a half of this book, and it was definitely an exciting book to read, to have me walking at the pace I was walking. Yeah. This is so good. I really want to read the second one. Because, yeah, I'm glad the main character is as fierce as she is, especially because she doesn't hold back. Like, I was a little concerned that she might have sometimes just been like, no, I'm gonna be the better person, quote unquote, and not hurt this other person when they absolutely deserve it. And she was like, no, this person absolutely deserves it, I'm gonna hurt them. And I was going, yes, thank you. And so reading a book like this was very, a book where the main character is this bold, this fierce, and unapologetically herself, fighting back against a misogynistic and racist government. Like, yeah, I feel like this is a very good book for reading right now, to feel feel some fighting spirit. So, in case that's of any help for determining whether you want to read it right now. It's also good if you just want to listen and chill here. That's fine too. Because yeah, I think that's about all I have to say about it. Yeah, I look forward to reading the second book. I really hope I can get it at the library. If not, I will probably have to buy it, and that's fine. We'll figure it out. Yeah, I think just like that's it. That's it. Thank you so much for listening.